Thank you. My presentation is pretty packed one, so I believe we won't have time for questions. If you want to ask them, please do that in person. So let's start. Today we'll speak about blockchain games, where we are right now and where we're headed. So I do believe that majority of you know who we are, but for those who don't, we are one of the earliest games on the DApp market. We released in April last year, and we've been innovating regarding different blockchains. So we're the first game to be launched on 2 blockchains and 3 blockchains simultaneously, and soon will be launched on 4. So let's speak about blockchain games, basically what they are. I believe you've already heard that several times today, but those are the games that store assets on blockchain, and those assets have ownership, and this ownership is in players' hands. So there are 2 types of blockchain games. First ones are decentralized crypto games. Basically, those are the games that cry about blockchain. Blockchain is on top. Everybody knows that they're playing a blockchain game, and you need crypto to play that. And then there are real blockchain games, the ones where blockchain is under the hood. Some people might even not know that they're playing a blockchain game, but the ownership is still there, and at some point they can get access to their assets. At this moment, there are practically no such games on the market, but Blankos and Black Hunters are trying to innovate in this field. So blockchains for games, how many of them are? Well, right now there are around 17 different blockchains that are already suitable for games. They are different in terms of philosophy, in terms of transactions per second speed, in terms of programming languages. So the choice is quite big. There are many options. And let's look at how the field changed for the course of the past year. So right now we're 1 year and 8 months since the market's initial inception in November 2017. And if we look at the amount of blockchains that was available for us last year, basically there were 3, but only one of them was a go-to option, Ethereum, and majority of the dApps that started out last year started on Ethereum. Right now there are 17 different options. In terms of released games, both games and gambling dApps, the amount last year was more than 800, and right now it's almost 3 times more, 2,300. Games that earn money didn't change. 25 games plus earned money last year, and by earning money I mean earning more than 10K per month. Right now we have 30 plus. But what changed is CryptoKitties' dominance in terms of turnover. Last year, 77% in July were generated by CryptoKitties. Right now, it's only 8%. So we see that market is growing, but it's not booming. Why it's not booming? Well, there are problems, issues, and restrictions, and let's speak about them. So they are the same as they were last year. They didn't change. First one is biggest user acquisition sources are closed for crypto games, including Facebook, Google Ads, and so on. And so comes the stores, the Google Play, the iOS App Store. It's very hard to release your game there because, Apple can't take their cut from your crypto payments. And there are different policies too regarding chargebacks and so on. Then scalability issues. People who started out on Ether know that their maximum speed is 50 transactions per second. That's quite slow and restrictive on the amount of mechanics you can put on chain. Other blockchains provide better scalability, but still Ethereum is the king in terms of dApp numbers. So blockchain developers there are rare and expensive breed, the same as they were last year, and regulatory field is a lot better than it was last year, especially in France and UK, but it's not as good as we need it to be. But the biggest problems are regarding traffic. It's still very hard to get, very expensive, and the onboarding process for non-crypto users is hard and scary. So let's look at the traffic more closely. This is how the funnel the whole funnel looks like. If we address the total audience that might be interested in playing games, like gamers, Statista says that there are around 2.47 billion of such users, but only 40 million wallets, and those are not users, those are wallets. Each user can have like up to how many he wants wallets, are having some kind of crypto on them, and only 170K wallets have crypto gaming assets. So 40 million and 170K are the numbers that usually all the games on the market here are addressing. Nobody works with the bigger audience. And the funnel looks like fiat user becomes crypto owner, then crypto owner becomes crypto user, then becomes crypto gamer, and your customer. Let's look at step by step. So each step has friction points, and we need to do something despite us not being regulators to try to improve the conversion on each of these steps. Majority of you might know, but some of you might not know that there are tools on each of the steps that can help you to increase conversion, especially if you're doing a game on Ethereum, because it's the most popular dApp blockchain right now. So friction point on step 1, when fiat user becomes crypto owner, are like different regulator and financial institution stuff. Like you can't buy crypto with credit card easily because it's a high risk payment and so on. But you can sell crypto assets, and here you can see I'm buying land from Axie Infinity using Nifty Gateway, like instantaneously with credit card. So if you're selling digital goods, you can do it with credit card, which is very important. If you want to sell tokens or crypto and you're new, I suggest you integrate with services such as Changely and Best Rate, because they can allow you to buy whichever currency you want using whichever payment method you want. Then the second step is the onboarding, where the most biggest friction points are scary stuff regarding losing everything if you lose access to your private key or somebody else sees your private key. So there are some guys on the market that try to solve this. Generally, those are Urgent Wallet, HTC Zen, and Dapper Wallet from Axioma Zen. What they do is they store private keys on smart contracts, encrypted, and you don't have direct access to them. So basically, you can't lose them. And the entry point for you is your email or your phone number. So there is a recovery for that. And if you want to make a subtle funnel, here I suggest you try to promote those wallets, especially Dapper one for the games for users that are coming not from crypto space. Then there is a friction point that basically all existing players are traders to some sort, and they have a lot of different cryptos, and sometimes they want to buy something and they don't have money. You need to provide instantaneous exchanges. Kyber network does exactly that. There are different services like Change Now, but I suggest you go with Kyber network. Then the third step is like when crypto user becomes crypto gamer. So basically, it's just the things that you need to put player into control. It's a friction point. If he doesn't understand what's going on, he may freak out and leave your game. So all current wallets and browsers help with that. They provide rather good user experience. And if you're doing a game on Ethereum, I suggest you integrate with Block Native. It's a transactional framework for dApps. Basically, when you do a transaction, it always notifies you what's happening, how many blocks are left to mine, and so on. So people stay calm and they don't leave your game, even if the transaction is not going through. And the last step here is when crypto gamer becomes your loyal customer. Well, here everything is very easy. It's totally up to you. Just make a great game with effective onboarding funnel. So as I've spoke 4 slides before that, we are all addressing the educated traffic, people who are into crypto. And what are the sources of that really work? Basically, dApp trackers like DappRadar, communities like crypto gaming community and Discord and Telegram. Twitter is good for crypto. Industry media outlets like Blockchain Gamer Biz, Medium and Steemit as blogging platforms, and NFT exchanges as OpenSea and Auctionity, together with crypto media outlets. They all do well. They have traffic. It costs somewhere very expensive, but dApp trackers are #1 source of traffic, and not only source, it's the only globally accessible success measurement tools, meaning that they provide rankings. And this is the place where some bad stuff started to happen. Basically, I call it unfair competition, because DappRadar, DappReview are your de facto top grossing charts, but majority of them list and arrange your app by the amount of users. And the fact is that they take the data from blockchain and you write the data to blockchain. You can fake it. You can fake the amount of transactions. You can move your money around. You can create free wallets, especially on Tron, on Ethereum, and not just some, many game developers do that, because otherwise you don't get the traffic. It's okay, it's a part of the market right now, but you need to keep that in mind. So if you go to EOS and see a game with 2,000 users with zero volume, they're faking it. And some are doing it very, very good, but the thing that, because right now majority of the game are web-based, you can check it all on SimilarWeb. If game shows they have enormous amount of users and it has 7 times less traffic than other game who has less users, probably they're lying. Then let's speak about market trends. Well, this year was very good in terms of crypto because blockchain had its rally. Right now it's dipping because of the congressional hearings on Libra, but it will still be better. It's a good time to come into the market because when Bitcoin is growing, it draws a lot of attention from the outside world. More people are coming into the other funnel, into their market, and we get more players and more revenue. Then the dApp space is getting a de facto standard. Everybody in big companies is trying to do some kind of blockchain development. So you can approach blockchains not just as companies, but as app store that can grant you featuring. You can try to BizDev your way out to get some kind of deal. For example, you develop an app for a particular blockchain and they bring you traffic. And if you manage to do that, you will have an upper hand against the competition, especially if at the very beginning you plan to enter EOS or Ethereum dApp space, which is very overcrowded right now. I suggest you talk with Neo, with Tron. They are very communicative and they're good and keen on great dApps coming to their ecosystem. The biggest trend of this year is that big guys are finally coming to the market. Facebook, who has 2.4 billion audience, announced Libra last month. Telegrams with 200 million plus audience is coming with its mainnet at the end of October this year. Samsung, which last year shipped around 300 million devices, quietly released access to their blockchain SDK. So the documentation is all available. If you want to go here and want to play with big players, you can start developing your dApp for one of those free. And Donald Trump tweeted about Bitcoin, which also brought a lot of attention, and attention brings money. Other trends, well, games explore asset interoperability, as Kakushi said before me. Majority of the games that are released on Engine have this by default because they have multiverse items created by Engine, and other games should implement them, but other games like Chibi Fighters and Crypto doing it on themselves. And as we know, My Crypto Hero is doing it as well too. Then Asian blockchain game markets are already becoming domestic. It took 3 years in a native mobile application space for Korean, Chinese, and Japanese market to become totally domestic. Right now we see that 90% of Japanese traffic is playing My Crypto Heroes. A lot of guys from Vietnam are playing Axie Infinity and so on. So market are getting domestic. And another trend is that 3D is getting into crypto games, meaning that the gap between real games with good aesthetics and graphics and crypto games, which at the beginning of the last year were pretty shitty in terms of user experience and graphics, are getting smaller. Then market is shifting. Ethereum is being pretty slow. They've postponed their release of Ethereum to 0 2 or 3 times in a row, and they did it once again. Now it's should be on January 3, 2020, and before that, Near Protocol is going to be released. Boss Core is already doing great. Neo is expanding, and Tone Network is also going great. So I suggest you look at those projects, and maybe if you're just planning to do the game, you do it on one of those protocols, not on Ethereum. So let's speak about market data. Basically, market, the numbers are wrong here. Well, we have 809 games and around 1,500 gambling and high-risk dApps on all the blockchain that support games right now. As you see, Tron, EOS, and Ethereum dominate the space in terms of sheer amount of applications, and people tend to go there, especially if you're doing gambling dApps, then Tron and EOS are very important for you. So let's narrow it down to those 3 blockchains in terms of turnover. This week, last week, was pretty bad in terms of turnover, and games totally showed that they reported that they've generated around $300,000, while gambling dApps around $100 million. And we can see that games are are making money mostly on Ethereum, while gambling dApps are doing on Tron and EOS. But do not forget that those numbers are being faked very, very hard, especially on the part of gambling dApps. They've been faking the numbers since the beginning of the industry on blockchain. But anyways, it gives you an idea. And if we extrapolate it on a monthly values, then we will see that usually games on blockchain on all the markets generate from $1.5 to $3 million, and gambling dApps from $400 million to $900 million. And some of you might think, wow, like I should do a gambling dApp because they earn so much. Well, the thing is that when you do a gambling dApp, you usually like take a small commission of the transaction, say 1%. And if you do a regular game, you can take up to 30%, 40%. So in some cases, it will be more profitable to do a game than a gambling dApp. And the whole space in terms of competition is a lot better in games market than in gambling. So thank you very much for your attention. If we still have time and we have any questions, you may ask them.
We have time for maybe 3 questions. If you have.
No questions.
Great. No questions?
Oh.
Will your slide be available?
I can share them personally, yes. Thanks. Okay, thank you guys. Have a great conference.
Thank you.